voice inside your head, and your inner roommate. Because we all got that, right? All right. If you have a copy, you can read along. And thank you for joining me tonight. I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to live your best life. Because it's all too short. And we make it too serious. Oneself be true. And it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. William Shakespeare. Shakespeare's age-honored words, spoken by Polonius to his son Laertes in Act 1 of Hamlet, sound so clear and unambiguous. They tell us that to maintain honest relationships with others, we must first be true to ourselves. Yet if Laertes were to be totally honest with himself, he would realize that his father may as well have told him to catch the wind. After all, to which self are we to be true? Is it the one that shows up when we're in a bad mood, or the one that is present when we feel humbled by our mistakes? Is it the one who speaks from the dark recesses of the heart when we're depressed or upset, or the one that appears during those fleeting moments when life seems so fanciful and light? From these questions, we see that the concept of self may turn out to be a bit more elusive than initially presumed. Perhaps if Laertes could have turned to traditional psychology, it would have shed some light on the subject. Freud, 1927, the father of psychology, divided the psyche into three parts: the id, the ego, and the ego. He saw the id, animal nature, the superego, as the judgment system that society has instilled within us, and the ego as our representative to the outside world that struggles to maintain balance between the other two powerful forces. But this certainly would have helped young Laertes. After all, to which of these conflicting forces are we to be true? Again, we see that things are not always as simple as they seem. If we dare to look past the surface of the term self, questions arise that many people would rather not ask. Are the many aspects of my being all equally part of myself, or is there only one me? And if so, which, where, how, and why? In the following chapters, we will undertake a journey of exploration of self, but we will not do so in a traditional way or manner. We will neither call upon the experts in psychology nor upon the great philosophers. We will not argue and choose between time-honored religious views or resort to statistically supported surveys of people's opinions. We will, instead, turn to a single source that has phenomenal direct knowledge on the subject. We will turn to the one expert who, for every moment of every day of their life, has been collecting the data necessary to finally put this great inquiry to rest. And that expert is you. But before you get too excited or decide that you're not up to the task, first be clear that we're not after your views or opinions on the subject. Neither are we interested in what books you have read, classes you have taken, nor seminars you have attended. We are only interested in your intuitive experience of what it is like to be you. We are not looking for your knowledge. We are seeking your direct experience. You see, you can't fail at this because yourself is what you are at all times and in all places. We simply need to sort it out. After all, it can get quite confusing in there. The chapters of this book are nothing but mirrors for seeing yourself from different angles. And though the journey we are about to embark on is an inner one, it will draw upon every aspect of your life. The only requirement asked of you is the willingness to honestly look at yourself in the most natural, intuitive manner. Remember, if we are seeking the root of self, what we are actually seeking is you. As you read through these pages, you will find that you know much more than you thought you did about some very deep subjects. The fact is, you already know how to find yourself. You have just gotten distracted and disoriented. Once focused, you will realize that you not only have the ability to find yourself, you have the ability to free yourself. Whether you choose to do so or not is entirely up to you. But upon completion of your journey through these chapters, there will be no more confusion, no more lack of empowerment, and no more blaming others. You will know exactly what must be done. And should you choose to devote yourself to the ongoing journey of self-realization, you will develop a tremendous sense of respect for who you really are. It is only then that you will come to appreciate the full depth of meaning in the advice, this above all, to thine own self be true. We've all heard it. I've said it many times as well. To thine own self be true. Because how could you be true to anybody else if you're not true to you? Part 1. Awakening consciousness. And before I continue, I'm going to take a sip of drink. Hello, Pamela. Hi, Mish. Hi, Aaron. Welcome to Friday night readings. Little cran from my local juicery. Yummy. Chapter 1. The voice inside your head conjures up Pink Floyd in my mind. The voice inside my head, and it's not me. Shoot, I can't remember her name. What was her name? What is her name? Darn, here she comes. What is it? Sally? Sue? She just told me yesterday. What's the matter with me? This is going to be embarrassing. That's kind of like the dialogue in our head. In case you haven't noticed, you have a mental dialogue going on inside your head that never stops. I know that for a fact. It just keeps going and going. Have you ever wondered why it talks in there? How does it decide what to say and when to say it? How much of what it says turns out to be true? How much of what it says is even important? And if right now you are hearing, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any voice inside my head. That's the voice we're talking about here. If you're smart, yeah, my narrator never shuts up either. If you're smart, you'll take the time to step back, examine this voice, and get to know it better. The problem is you're too close to the objective. You have to step way back and watch it converse. While you're driving, you hear internal conversations like, wasn't I supposed to call Fred? I should have. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. He's going to be so mad. He may never talk to me again. Maybe I should stop and call him right now. No. I don't want to stop the car right now. Notice that the voice takes both sides of the conversation. It doesn't care which side it takes, just as long as it gets to keep on talking. When you're tired and trying to sleep, it's a voice inside your head that says, what am I doing? I can't go to sleep. Yet, wait a minute, I forgot to call Fred. I remembered in the car, but I didn't call. If I don't call now, oh, wait, it's too late. I shouldn't call him now. I don't even know why I thought about it. I need to fall asleep. Oh, shoot, now I can't fall asleep. I'm not tired anymore, but I have a big day tomorrow, and I have to get up early. No wonder you can't sleep. Why do you even tolerate that voice talking to you all the time? Even if what it's saying is soothing and nice, it's still disturbing everything you're doing. If you spend some time observing this mental voice, the first thing you will notice is that it never shuts up. When left to its own, it just talks. Imagine if you were going you were to see someone walking around constantly talking to himself, you'd think he was strange. You'd wonder, if he's the one who's talking and he's the one who's listening, he obviously knows what's going to be said before he says it, so what's the point? The same is true for the voice inside your head. Why is it talking? It's you who's talking and it's you who's listening. And when the voice argues with itself, who is it arguing with? Who could possibly win? It gets very confusing. Just listen. I think I should get married. No, you know you're not ready. You'll be sorry, but I love him. Oh, come on, you felt that way about Tom. What if you had married him? If you watch carefully, you'll see that it's just trying to find a comfortable place to rest. It will change sides in a moment if that seems to help. And it doesn't even quit. It doesn't even quiet down when it finds out that it's wrong. It simply adjusts its viewpoint and keeps on going. If you pay attention, these mental patterns will become obvious to you. It's actually a shocking realization when you first notice that your mind is constantly talking. You might even try to yell at it in a feeble attempt to shut it up. But then you realize that's the voice yelling at the voice. Shut up! I want to go to sleep. Why do you have to talk all the time? Obviously, you can't shut it up that way. The best way to free yourself from this incessant chatter is to step back and view it objectively. Just view the voice as a vocalizing mechanism that is capable of making it appear like someone is in there talking to you. Don't think about it. Just notice it. No matter what the voice is saying, it's all the same. It doesn't matter if it's saying nice things or mean things, worldly things or spiritual things. It doesn't matter because it's still just a voice talking inside your head. In fact, the only way to get your distance from this voice is to stop differentiating what it's saying. Stop feeling that one thing it says is you and the other thing it says is not you. If you're hearing it talk, it's not you. You are the one who hears the voice. You are the one who noticed that it's talking. You do hear it when it talks, don't you? Make it say hello right now. Say it over and over a few times. Hello, hello, hello. Now shout it inside. Can you hear yourself saying hello inside? Of course you can. There is a voice talking, and there is you noticing. You notice the voice saying hello, but it's difficult to see that no matter what the voice says, it is still just a voice talking and you listening. There is absolutely nothing that voice can say that is more you than anything else it says. Suppose you were looking at three objects, a flower pot, a photograph, and a book, and were then asked, which of these objects is you? You'd say none of them. I'm the one who's looking at what you're putting in front of me. It doesn't matter what you put in front of me, it's always going to be me looking at it. You see, it's an act of a subject perceiving various objects. This is also true of hearing the voice inside. It doesn't make any difference what it's saying, you are the one who is aware of it. As long as you think that one thing it's saying is you, but the other thing it's saying is not you, you've lost your objectivity. You may want to think of yourself as the part that says the nice things, but that's still the voice talking. You may like what it says, but it's not you. There is nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of mind. You are the one who hears it. If you don't understand this, you will try to figure out which of the many things the voices says is really you. People go through so many changes in the name of trying to find myself. They want to discover which of these voices of their personality is who they really are. The answer is simple. None of them. If you watch it objectively, you will come to see that much of what the voice says is meaningless. Most of the talking is just a waste of time and energy. The truth is that most of life will unfold in accordance with forces far outside of your control. Regardless of what your mind says about it, it's like sitting down at night and deciding whether you want the sun to come up in the morning. The bottom line is the sun will come up and the sun will go down. Billions of things are going on in this world. You can think about it all you want, but life is still going to keep on happening. In fact, your thoughts have far less impact on this world than you would like to think. If you're willing to be objective and watch all your thoughts, you will see that the vast majority of them have no relevance. They have no effect on anything or anybody except you. They are simply making you feel better or worse about what is going on now, what has gone on in the past, or what might go on in the future. If you spend your time hoping that it doesn't rain tomorrow, you're wasting your time. Your thoughts don't change the rain. You will someday come to see that there is no use for that incessant internal chatter. And there is no reason to constantly attempt to figure everything out. I know, we all do it, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. Let's try to figure it all out. Eventually you will see that the real cause of problems is not life itself. It's the commotion of the mind. It's the commotion the mind makes about life that really causes problems. Now this raises a serious question. If so much of what the voice says is meaningless and unnecessary, then why does it even exist? The secret to answering this question lies in understanding why it says what it says when it says it. For example, in some cases, the mental voice talks for the same reason that a tea kettle whistles. That is, there's a buildup of energy inside that needs to be released. If you watch objectively, you will see that when there's a buildup of nervous, fearful, or desire-based energies inside, the voice becomes extremely active. Ooh, that's a good clue for many of us, right? This is easy to see when you are angry with someone and you feel like telling them off. Just watch how many times the inner voice tells them off before you even see them. When energy builds up inside, you want to do something about it. That voice talks because you're not okay inside. And talking releases energy. And if you watched my videos before, the mind steals vital biological energy from the body. So the more overactive our mind, the more exhausted our body. Haven't you ever noticed this happens in life all the time? My mind is just so crazy, I just can't stop thinking, and I'm overreacting, and I'm overthinking, and blah, blah, blah. And then, do you ever notice how exhausted you feel by the end of the day? And you're just like, wow, I don't understand. Why am I so tired? It's because you were all up in your head and not in your body. And the head's like intangible. It's crazy making. And so again, the more active we are in the mind, the more we're stealing energy from the body. We exhaust ourselves with these stories. And the mind wants to run, because it fears that if it stops, it will disappear. Now, of course, the mind is meant to be your servant, not your master. So you're meant to master the mind, not be mastered by it. But this slowing down allows us to see our own conscious and unconscious programming. What below the surface, what exists. And also while dreaming, right? Oh, I have some pretty active dreams, I know that. You will notice, however, that even when you're not particularly bothered by something, it still talks. When you're walking down the street, it says things like, look at that dog, it's a Labrador. Hey, there's another dog in that car. He looks a lot like my first dog, Shadow. Whoa, there's an old Oldsmobile. It's got Alaska plates. You don't see many of those down here. I know you can all relate to this one. It's actually narrating the world for you. But why do you need this? You already see what's happening outside. How does it help to repeat it to you? You should examine this very closely. take in the tremendous detail of whatever you're looking at. If you see a tree, you effortlessly see the branches, the leaves, and the flowering buds. Why then do you have to verbalize what you have already seen? Look at that dogwood. The greens are so beautiful against the white flowers. Look how many flowers there are. Wow, it's so full. What you'll see if you study this carefully is that the narration makes you feel more comfortable with the world around you, like backseat driving. It makes you feel as though things are more in your control. You actually feel like you have some relationship with them. A tree is no longer just a tree in the world that has nothing to do with you. It is a tree that you saw, labeled, and judged. By verbalizing it mentally, you brought that initial direct experience of the world into the realm of your thoughts. There it becomes integrated with your other thoughts, such as those making up your value system and historical experiences. Take a moment to examine the difference between your experience of the outside world and your interactions with the mental world. When you're just thinking, you're free to create whatever thoughts you want in your mind. And these thoughts are expressed through the voice. You are very accustomed to settling into the playground of the mind and creating and manipulating thoughts. The inner world is an alternative environment that is under your control. The outside world, however, marches to its own laws. When the voice narrates the outside world to you, those thoughts are now side by side in parity with all your other thoughts. All these thoughts intermix and actually influence your experience of the world around you. What you end up experiencing is a representation of the world according to you. A filtered experience of what is really going on out there. You don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are, internally. That's what that really means. It's really that simple. But then we're so deep in our own shit, we can't find our way or see our way out of it. Isn't that how that works? What is that man speaking in my ear? Exactly, Valley, right? But it's not you, Pink Floyd. So, this mental manipulation of the outer experience allows you to buffer reality as it comes in. For example, there are a myriad of things that you see at any given moment, yet you only narrate a few of them. The ones you discuss in your mind are the ones that matter to you. With this subtle form of pre-processing inside your mind, your consciousness is actually experiencing your mental model of reality, not reality itself. Take that one in. And there are times when you just having heard that, how many of you out there were like, those things don't matter to me? A lot of times you probably have caught yourself narrating something that, although it says that it's saying that essentially it matters to you, but in the moment, why are you saying things that you don't think matter to you? Clearly they do. I know a lot of times when I have conversations with my dad and he'll say things and I'm like, Dad, come on. You're putting way too much attention on it. Like he says things out loud, right? And I'm like, Dad, you need to like chill and let that stuff go and not focus on it, because where your attention goes, he doesn't always agree with everything. He gets caught up in his flustered state of, I'm frustrated and this annoys the heck out of me and blah, 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 So when I see that and I'm like, Dad, why are you letting that take your peace? Why are you giving it that much energy? It's, forget it. He's so funny. And we all have that inner voice. Like the inner voice is also like, leave me alone. I just want to be miserable. That's a real thing too. How many of you have been like that? I've been that. Lana, don't let him steal your peace. Who the fuck are you? Did you just see what, you know what I mean? Like that voice, we will defend it too on the outside. And it's like, that's not even the reality of our life. It is crazy critical. You have to watch this very carefully because you do it all the time. You're walking outside in the winter, you start to shiver, and the voice says it's cold. Duh. Now, how did that help you? You already knew it was cold. You're the one who's experiencing the cold. Why is it telling you this? You know? Have you ever had that conversation with your mind? Like, duh. You recreate the world within your mind because you can control your mind, whereas you can't control the world. That's the big boom in the whole section, right there. The real reason most people don't understand that their biggest addiction is to their BS, their belief systems, because it's this mental construct that has created all these rules, all these ideas, all these blah, blah, blah stories that it goes to defend, because if it couldn't believe that, it will go to the death. It will fight. It will argue it. It has to maintain that level of control. So if you threaten someone's dogmatic belief systems and you just notice how they respond to it, you can look at the world today. It's like, that's not right. That's not true. I know what's true, right? That is just showing the inability and the inflexibility of the individual to open their mind and see beyond their own BS, their bullshit. I mean, belief systems, right? Hey, I've been there. I can only speak from personal experience, so I'm going to speak of it. It's just that other people don't necessarily want to admit it. Yep. The awareness, but see, that's what you have to do. You have to slow down. Because before it comes out of your mouth, you need to be able to witness it before it really wreaks havoc. Because the incessant chatter in the mind, depending on how strong it is, can projectile vomit onto people incessantly, unnecessarily, and the worst sabotage ever, right? We've all experienced that at least once in our lives. So that is why you mentally talk about it. I'm going to repeat that statement. You recreate the world within your mind because you can control your mind, whereas you can't control the world. That is why you mentally talk about it. If you can't get the world the way you like it, you internally verbalize it, judge it, complain about it, and then decide what to do about it. You're the judge and jury and the verdict and the plaintiff. You are the whole kit and caboodle. This makes you feel more empowered, though. When your body experiences cold, there may be nothing you can do to affect the temperature. But when your mind verbalizes it's cold, you can say, well, we're almost home. Just a few more minutes. Now you feel better. See, now it's being your buddy, right? In the thought world, there's always something you can do to control the experience. Basically, you recreate the world outside inside. So you recreate the outside world inside yourself, and then you live in your mind, which is where most people are. They're out of their minds, in their minds. That's how crazy that is. Play on words, gotta. What if you decided not to do this? If you decide not to narrate and instead just consciously observe the world, you will feel more open and exposed. This is because you really don't know what will happen next, and your mind is accustomed to helping you. It does this by processing your current experiences in a way that makes them fit with your viewpoints of the past and visions of the future. All of this helps to create a semblance of control. Semblance doesn't mean you got it. If your mind doesn't do this, you simply create, or you become too uncomfortable. Well, if I'm not able to do something or say something, or, I'm not comfortable with this not knowing thing. But you didn't know anyway. You're just creating a story. Reality is just too real for most of us, so we temper it with the mind. Clever it is, isn't it? You will come to see that the mind talks all the time because you gave it a job to do. You use it as a protection mechanism, a form of defense. Ultimately, it makes you feel more secure. As long as that's what you want, you will be forced to constantly use your mind to buffer yourself from life instead of living it. This world is unfolding and really has very little to do with you and your thoughts. It was here long before you came, and it will be here long after you leave. In the name of attempting to hold the world together, you're really just trying to hold yourself together. And you're trying to protect yourself from your own thoughts, which is the crazy making too. Because your thoughts are the ones that created the story that it's trying to protect you from. Think about how cray-cray that is. It's not even real. You made it up. And now you're afraid of it too? There's no tangibility. There's no proof. And you're believing this cloud in the sky. And that's where we're at in the world right now. Things that people haven't firsthand experienced, but assume. We all know what that does. True personal growth is about transcending that part of you that is not okay and needs protection. This is done by constantly remembering that you are the one inside that notices the voice talking. That is the way out. The one inside who is aware that you are always talking to yourself about yourself is always silent. It is a doorway to the depths of your being. To be aware that you are watching the voice talk is to stand on the threshold of a fantastic inner journey. If used properly, the same mental voice that has been a source of worry, distraction, and general neurosis can become the launching ground for true spiritual awakening. See what I mean? This is where you got to master it. Come to know the one who watches the voice, and you will come to know one of the great mysteries of creation. Yes, slow down, witness and observe. And on to chapter 2. I just thought I was completely nutty too. I like my nutty though. It's quite clever. So funny. Chapter 2. Your inner roommate. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. You're ready to grow when you finally realize that the I, who is always talking inside, will never be content. It always has a problem with something. Honestly, when was the last time you really had nothing bothering you? Before you had your current problem, there was a different problem. And if you're wise, you will realize that after this one's on, there will be another one. The bottom line, you'll never be free of problems until you are free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this? If you ask, what should I do about it? You've already fallen into believing that there really is a problem outside that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. It's perception, right? If you're feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself, just ask, what part of me is jealous? That will cause you to look inside and see that there's a part of you that's having a problem with jealousy. See, you got to get smarter than it. That's what I'm talking about. Once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask, who is it that sees this? Who notices this inner disturbance? Asking this is the solution to your every problem. The very fact that you can see the disturbance means that you are not it. The process of seeing something requires a subject-object relationship. The subject is called the witness, because it is the one who sees what's happening. The object is what you are seeing, and in this case, the inner disturbance. The act of maintaining objective awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. This is the essential difference between a spiritually minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or stature. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problem is in the outside world. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. There's always the next problem. The only real solution is to take the seat of witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with the solution if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Again, you have to go within to affect the externals. Because the way you look at things, your perception, is what creates that experience of it. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No, we're repeating this again, by the way. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Because everyone knows you can't deal well with the situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. It's that first problem you have to deal with, which is your own reaction. You're not going to be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you on the inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. And that's that inner roommate, that voice. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from the outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the problem, the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. So the only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of that part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. There really is a way to let go of the part of you that sees everything as a problem. It may seem impossible, but it's not. There is a part of your being that can actually abstract from your own melodrama. You can watch yourself be jealous or angry. You don't have to think about or analyze it. You can just be aware of it. Who is it that sees all of this? Who notices the changes going on inside? When you tell a friend, every time I talk to Tom, it gets me so upset. When you tell a friend, every time I talk about this person, it gets me upset. When you tell somebody that, it's like, wait a minute, how do you know it gets you upset? You know that it gets you upset because you're in there and you see what's going on in there. There's a separation between you and the anger or the jealousy. You are the one who's in there noticing these things. Once you take the seat of consciousness, you can get rid of these personal disturbances. You start by watching. Just be aware that you are aware of what is going on in there. It's easy, it says. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. All your strengths, all your weaknesses come to the surface inside of you. It's like, that's what that's really telling you. It's a telling on. And you know I like to tell that the body is your tattletale on the mind. Notice in your body where you feel it too. Because you're going to notice it's not a truth, but you're going to believe it because it's your internal dialogue. The conversation you're having in your own head about yourself. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. If you would like to meet your roommate, just try to sit inside yourself for a while in complete solitude and silence. You have the right. It's your inner domain. But instead of finding silence, you're going to listen to incessant chatter. Why am I doing this? I have more important things to do. This is a waste of time. There's nobody in here but me. What's this all about? Right on cue. There's your roommate. You may have a clear intention to be quiet inside, but your roommate won't cooperate. And it's not just when you try to be quiet. It has something to say about everything you look at. I like it. I don't like it. It's good. This is good. That's bad. It just talks and talks. You don't generally notice because you don't step back from it. You're so close that you don't realize that you're actually hypnotized into listening to it. Basically, you're not alone in there. There are two distinct aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intentions, and the other is that which you watch. I know, I like that. That's clever. My roommate needs to pay rent for living up in there. Make it work for you. That's how that works. It's not that it needs to pay rent. You got to master it so that it brings it in. You magnetize and you make it work for you. That's the way to get it to pay rent. The problem is the part that you watch never shuts up. If you could get rid of it, that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity would be the nicest vacation you've ever had. And truly, if you're someone who's been meditating for a long time and you've had those moments of stillness and silence, the reality is it does exist, but it's fleeting. And those of us who have been doing this for a long time know this. Yes, I have a very overactive mind, but I had my moments, my glimpses of pure silence and bliss. And that's why we continue to meditate, to recapture and reclaim those moments. It's a chasing of the high. There's no doubt about it. But it's a healthy habit / addiction versus, we could have all these demoting addictions, but you can exchange it for a promoting experience. One that contributes to your growth, right? Exactly. So, imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to bring this thing with you everywhere you go. Real spiritual growth is about getting out of this predicament. But first you have to realize that you've been locked in there with a maniac. In any situation or circumstance, your roommate could suddenly decide, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to this person. You would immediately feel tense. That's where you need to tap into the body. Where am I feeling it? The body's telling on the mind. Something's uncomfortable, really. And it starts in the mind. So when you immediately feel tense and uncomfortable, your roommate can ruin anything you're doing without a moment's notice. It could ruin your wedding day or even your wedding night. That part of you can ruin anything and everything, and it generally does. You buy a brand new car and it's beautiful, but every time you drive it, your inner roommate finds something wrong with it. That mental voice keeps pointing out every little squeak, every little vibration, until eventually you don't even like the car anymore. Once you see what this can do to your life, you are ready for spiritual growth. When you're ready, really ready for real transformation, when you finally say, look at this thing, it's ruining my life. I'm trying to live a peaceful, meaningful existence, but I feel like I'm sitting on top of a volcano. At any moment, this thing can decide to freak out, close down, and fight with what's happening. One day it likes someone, and the next day it decides to pick on everything they do. My life is a mess just because of the thing that lives in here with me has to make a melodrama out of everything. Anybody? Once you've seen this and learned to no longer identify with your roommate, you're free to be yourself. And you're ready to be free by yourself, free of that voice, that roommate, that extra one running the show, really. If you haven't reached this awareness yet, just start to watch. Watch the voice. And it makes me think of people with anxiety. I'd say the anxious mind is probably busier, whereas the depressive voice is heavier. That doesn't mean one's talking less than the other for sure. Spend a day watching every single thing your roommate does. Start in the morning and see if you can notice what it's saying in every situation. Every time you meet somebody, every time the phone rings, just try to watch. A good time to watch it talk is while you're taking a shower. Just watch what that voice has to say. You will see that it never lets you just take a peaceful shower. I know this for a fact. Your shower is for washing the body, not for watching the mind talk nonstop. See if you can stay conscious enough throughout the entire experience to be aware of what's going on. You'll be shocked at what you see. It jumps from one subject to the next. The incessant chatter, it seems so neurotic that you won't believe that it's always that way. But it is. It doesn't disappear and it's not going anywhere. You have to watch this if you want to be free of it. You don't have to do anything about it, but you have to get wise to the predicament you're in. You have to realize that somehow you've ended up with a mess for an inner roommate. If you want to be peaceful in there, you're going to have to fix the situation. The way to catch on to what your inner roommate is really like is to personify it externally. Make believe that your roommate, the psyche, has a body of its own. You do this by taking the entire personality that you hear talking to you inside and imagine it as a person talking to you on the outside. Just imagine that another person is now saying everything your inner voice would say. Now spend a day with that person. You can use the mirror for this, by the way, too. You've just sat down to watch your favorite TV show. The problem is that you have this person with you. Now you'll get to hear the same incessant monologue that used to be inside, except that it's sitting next to you on the couch talking to itself. Did I turn the light off down? You better go check. Not now. I'll do it later. I want to finish the show. No, do it now. That's why the electric bill is so high. You sit in silent awe, watching all of this. Then a few seconds later, your couchmate is engaged in another dispute. Hey, I want to get something to eat. I'm craving some pizza. No, you can't have pizza now. It's too far to drive. But I'm hungry. When do I get to eat? When will I eat it? What? To your amazement, these neurotic bursts of conflicting dialogue just keep on going and going on and on. And as if that's not enough, instead of simply watching TV, this person starts verbally reacting to whatever comes on the screen. At one point, after a redhead appears on the show, your couchmate starts mumbling about an ex-spouse and a painful divorce. Then you start yelling. Then that's when the yelling starts, and just as though the ex-spouse were in the room with you, then it stops, just as suddenly as it started. At this point, you find yourself hugging the far corner of the couch in a desperate attempt to get as far away from this crazy disturbed person as you possibly can. It's killing me. Will you dare to do this experiment? Do you need to? Anyone? Don't try to make the person stop talking. Just try to get to know what you live with inside by externalizing the voice. Give it a body and put it out there in the world, just like everybody else. Let it be a person who says on the outside exactly what the voice of your mind says inside. Now make that person your best friend. After all, how many friends do you spend all of your time with and pay absolute attention to every word they say? How would you feel if someone outside really started talking to you the way your inner voice does? How would you relate to a person who opened their mouth to say everything your mental voice says? After a very short period of time, you would tell them to leave and never come back. But when your inner friend continuously speaks up, you don't even tell it to leave. No matter how much trouble it causes, you listen. There's almost nothing that voice can say that you don't pay full-on attention to. It pulls you right out of whatever you're doing, no matter how enjoyable, and suddenly you're paying attention to whatever it has to say. Imagine that you're in a serious relationship and are about to get married. You're driving to the wedding and it says, maybe this is not the right person. I'm really nervous about this. What should I do? If someone outside of you said that, you'd ignore them. But you feel you owe the voice an answer. You have to convince your own nervous mind that this is the right person, or it won't let you walk down the aisle. That's how much respect you have for it. For this neurotic thing inside of you. You know that if you don't listen to it, it will bother you every day of your life. But it already is. I told you not to get married. I said I wasn't sure. The bottom line is undeniable. If somehow that voice managed to manifest in a body outside of you, and you had to take it with you everywhere you went, you wouldn't last a day. If somebody were to ask you what your new friend is like, you'd say, this is one seriously disturbed person. Just look up neurosis in the dictionary and you'll get the picture. That being the case, once you've spent a day with your friend, what is the probability you'd go to them for advice? After seeing how often this person changed their mind, how conflicted they were on so many subjects, and how emotionally overreactive they tended to be, would you ever ask them for relationship advice or financial advice? As amazing as it seems, you do just that every moment of your life. Having taken its rightful place back inside of you, it is still the same person who tells you what to do about every aspect of your life. Have you ever bothered to check its credentials? How many times has that voice been totally wrong? She doesn't care for you anymore. That's why she hasn't called. She's going to break up with you tonight. I can feel it coming. I just know it. You shouldn't even answer the phone if she calls. After 30 minutes of this, the phone rings and it's your girlfriend. She's late because it's your 1-year anniversary and she was preparing a surprise dinner. It was definitely a surprise to you since you completely forgot the anniversary. She says she's on her way over to pick you up. Well, you're very excited and your inner voice is chatting about how great she is. But haven't you forgotten something? Haven't you forgotten about the bad advice the inner voice just gave you that caused you to suffer for the last half hour? What if you had hired a relationship advisor who had given you that terrible advice? They had completely misread the entire situation. Had you listened to the advisor, you never would have picked up that phone. Wouldn't you fire them on the spot? How could you ever trust their advice again after seeing how wrong they were? Well, are you going to fire your inner roommate? After all, its advice and analysis of the situation were totally wrong. Nope. No, you never hold it responsible for the trouble it causes. In fact, the next time it gives advice, you're all ears. Is that rational? How many times has that voice been wrong about what is going on or what will be going on? Maybe it's worth noticing whom you're going to for advice. When you've sincerely tried these practices of self-observation and awareness, you'll see that you're in trouble. You'll realize that you've only had one problem your entire life, and you're looking at it. It's pretty much the cause of every problem you've ever had. Now the question becomes, how do you get rid of this inner troublemaker? The first thing you'll realize is that there's no hope of getting rid of it until you really want to. Until you've watched your inner roommate long enough to truly understand the predicament you're in, you really have no basis for practices that help you deal with the mind. Once you've made the decision to free yourself from the mental melodrama, you are ready for teachings and techniques. You will now have a real use for them. You will be relieved to know that you are not the first person to have this problem. There are those who have gone before you who found themselves in the same situation, the same predicament. Many of them looked for guidance from those who had mastered this field of knowledge. They were given teachings and techniques such as yoga, which were created to help this process. Yoga is not really about getting the body healthy, although it does that too. Yoga is about the knowledge that will help you out of your predicament, the knowledge that can free you. Once you've made this freedom the meaning of your life, there are spiritual practices that can help you. These practices are what you do with your time in order to free yourself from yourself. You will eventually catch on that you have to distance yourself from your psyche. You do this by setting the direction of your life when you're clear and not letting the wavering mind deter you. Your will is stronger than the habit of listening to that voice. There is nothing you can't do. Your will is supreme over all of this. If you want to free yourself, you must first become conscious enough to understand your predicament. Then you must commit yourself to the inner work of freedom. You do this as though your life depended on it, because it does. As it is right now, your life is not your own. It belongs to your inner roommate, the psyche. You have to take it back. Stand firm in the seat of the witness and release the hold that the habitual mind has on you. This is your life. Reclaim it. And that is the beginning of the book. Where we all begin is within. Isn't it interesting? When we're kids, we are so creative and clever, and we come in with so much wisdom. And yet, when we become adults, we're living from the outside in rather than the inside out. Children are living from the inside out. I remember this from my childhood. And that as we get older and wiser, that's what wisdom is. It's from our experiences of knowing that something feels off. But the only way to recognize what feels off is to become present in the moment. To be the witness of the mind is to slow down the breath. To breathe into the moment brings you into the present, and that is the gift of the spirit of life, the breath that all it is. So when we speak about the way the mind steals vital life force, biological energy from the body, it's because most of the time you notice when your overactive mind is going out on a crazy la 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 la. Notice your breath. 9 times out of 10, your breath is not full and rich, and you're not getting full breaths. Most of the time when your mind is overactive, you have a shortness of breath. Maybe you hold your breath. Maybe shallow breathing. Because when you're up here, you need to sink down here. Everything that we do in this life has been dictated. I could play with words all day, people. And the mind is no different than a dog trying to mark its territory and act like it's got control. But you need to train the dog. You need to train the mind. And the only way to do that is to become present with the breath so that you can be in awareness and witness all those inner workings. And like it said in the book, what is the disturbance telling me about myself, essentially? What disturbance do I really have? We don't have problems. We create them. It's our perception. It's the way we see things. And it's usually that we take a situation and we run it through the filter of our belief system, of our mind, our BS, of how we want things to be, how they should be. We should on ourselves all the time. And when we do that, we're not allowing what it is because we're trying to make it what it isn't. And that's the root of all our suffering. It's not allowing, but trying to change things or resist things. And again, there's that fight. That's the fight, the push, the pull. I want this, but I'm not accepting it as it is. And then that's creating the friction, the energy's like heavy and dense. And that's what's exhausting, right? And most of it's not an external fight. It's all up in here. This is the real battle of the mind. Is the mind trying to make things out of no thing? None of it's tangible. The majority of it is a construct, a story. So when we become aware of those thoughts and those unconscious programs, the BS that's running below the surface, then we can start to confront them more and really tap into the real truth of our being, which is down in the body. We're not here to escape people, because the body will always tell on the mind. It will give you clear insight. Oh, I'm not breathing. Cleansing. When you take breaths, it clears out the mind. You may even forget what you were even thinking about. Right? Have you had that happen before? Where your mind has gone out of control, but then you catch that and you realize, I'm not breathing. Okay. And you bring it back to the breath, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, how was I allowing that to even penetrate me? Steal that vital life force energy from me. So again, I always like to say, we master the breath so we can master the mind, because it's the awareness of that mind that allows us to master it and also turn it around in a way that we make it work for us. But we have to first know what the inner workings are first. What is the storyline that's running out and playing? It's running. It's trying to keep on track. Its track. The voice inside your head has been influenced and programmed from all of your experiences. All that unconscious stuff, most of the times, is just simply what you've witnessed. A lot of it's legacy. It's passed on from family. My parents were like that, so now I'm like that. Or how about this one? I never want to be like my parents, but yet you come out just like they were. My sister and I joke about it all the time. Huh? Sound like mom. Oh, sound like dad. And it's, that's why we have people in our lives to keep us accountable and hold us accountable. And thank you for reflecting that back to me so I can course correct. Because you can always change the direction, the trajectory of our lives by being in awareness of where we're at. Okay, well, maybe this doesn't feel so great right now. But as a result of the feeling of it and the experience of it, I can course correct and change my direction. There are no mistakes. They're just choices, people. If you think you made a mistake, just make another choice. That changes the trajectory of your life completely. First time I heard that was a girlfriend of mine. She said that her father said that to her. She said it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm stealing that. Because it's so true. There are no mistakes, just choices. And choices change things. You always have. And choices are your superpower, people. You're not a tree. You're not planted. You can get up and move. You just need to choose. Choose where you want to go. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed tonight's reading. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to smash the like button, smash the notifications and subscribe bell, because be kind and subscribe. And sharing is caring. You know how that goes. Lots of love to all of you out there. I hope you're enjoying quality time with those you love. Yes, grasshopper. Vax on, vax off. Life is too short, but please make choices that make you happy. And maybe make a choice that make you not so happy. You change and you make a choice that makes you happy. Oop, don't like that, go this way. But notice the voice inside your head too that's judging the situation. Because it will go on its little, get on its hamster wheel. So much love from my heart to yours on this beautiful Friday evening. I love you.